A worn-down school cafeteria cashier is told to stamp kids' hands with lunch debt when their accounts go negative. During a tense lunch rush, a quiet custodian pays $312.76 of student debt out of his own pocket and signals the cashier to put the stamp away. His costly, private act resets the mood of the room and sparks small changes across the school without any speeches. Just a quick note before we begin: hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. The cafeteria smelled like pizza and bleach. Trays slid. Kids in hoodies and jerseys shuffled forward, eyes on the hot food, their backpacks bumping each other. The woman at the register wore a plastic hairnet and a blue polo that had seen too many wash cycles. Her fingers were quick. She kept the line moving. She popped lids, weighed grapes, tapped keys that stuck. Her screen froze sometimes. She knew the little trick, the tap on the side that woke it up. She joked lightly, the way you do when you want to keep 30 feet of kids from noticing a problem. Most didn't look up. She was furniture to them, the beep behind the food. A boy slid his tray forward, smiled too wide. It'd been stamped yesterday. The red letters had faded, ghosting across his knuckles like a sunburn. He held his fingers tight into his sleeve. A girl behind him noticed anyway and glanced down, then away. It was quick, but the woman saw it. The new red stamp sat heavy by her elbow. The office had given it to her that morning with a nod and a typed memo. Use if negative balance appears, it said. The ink smelled like marker and vinegar. She had set it to the side, hoping to somehow not need it. But the system didn't care. It beeped. It told her what to do. Go ahead, a teacher in a bright scarf said, waving a group forward. Let's move. A boy in a too-thin hoodie held out 4 quarters and a nickel. His tray had pizza, milk, and the small cup of canned peaches that stuck when you pulled the lid. The screen flashed red. The peep was sharp. An alarm in a quiet room. The boy's mouth tightened. He pushed his coins forward so hard they jumped. She knew his name. She had seen him all year, always with exact change that was never enough. Her hand went to the stamp pad and hovered. The assistant principal stood nearby with a clipboard, talking into a radio about bus routes. He didn't look up, but his presence was a weight. A volunteer at the end of the line held her phone like a shield and pretended to check Facebook. People watch when a rule gets made. By the door, the custodian pushed a mop along the tile, eyes on the floor. He was big and quiet, the kind of man who made space for others without trying. Grey at the temples, long arms that made the mop look small. His radio crackled about a leak on the 2nd floor. He kept moving, a slow cut-through noise as the woman breathed in. She could stamp the hand and send the boy to the end for a cheese sandwich. She could follow the rule and swallow it. She could feel the room waiting. Next, the teacher called out, trying to be bright. The teacher snapped at a group at table 5 to sit. She sounded tired too. The woman stamped yesterday's kid and felt like she'd bruised her own palm. Today her thumb shook. She saw skin already chapped from the early cold, a sleeve with a lighter-colored patch where a name brand would be. He set the mop in the bucket, wiped his hands on his sleeve, and stepped into the office. The lunch manager glanced up, surprised. The office was a closet with a desk shoved in, papers piled high, a photo of last year's staff picnic crooked on the wall. Can I see the list? He asked. He kept his voice low. He pointed toward the register line. He knew they logged every account like a utility bill. He knew the office kept a printout. The manager frowned. That's not. She looked out through the window at the red stamp next to the register. She looked at the boy with the too-thin hoodie. She sighed and rummaged in a drawer. Paper slid. She handed him a stack with highlights in yellow. He took a crumpled envelope from his back pocket. It had a rubber band around it and grease smears that didn't wash out. $312.76 left his envelope and became lines on a page. He counted twice. He didn't make eye contact. He didn't give a speech. That's not policy, the manager said. But softer, you don't have to, until Friday, he said. Mark it to custodial. He scratched a note on a sticky and stuck it to the edge of the desk. He put the empty envelope in his pocket, like it might still protect something. He signed where she pointed. First initial hard, last name quick. He picked up the stamp pad on the way out. Not obvious. Not a show. He set it by the drawer at the register. The woman watched, hands still. He tore off a sticky note and wrote, until Friday, M. He slid the note under the lip of her screen. He didn't touch her hand. He didn't need to. She slid the stamp pad into the drawer and shut it with a soft click. The beep kept going because the system didn't know any better. But the line shifted. The boy with the coins took his tray and sat. He ate the peaches first. The teacher didn't bark. A volunteer lowered her phone. The room exhaled, and no one noticed that either. He went back to the wet square by the door and pulled the mop in even strokes. They were behind because a second grader had dropped a milk earlier, and the floor had sticky maps where kids had walked through it. He took care of it. He didn't look up for thanks. The woman tapped keys that stuck and let them go when they were stuck and helped them unstick when they were ready. She watched small bodies move and heard the change in sound. Less shuffling, less whisper, less buzzing in her chest. She wiped the edge of her eye with the base of her palm and told herself it was the bleach. She glanced at the drawer. She left it shut. When the rush ended, she picked up the note and slid it under her sleeve so it wouldn't get lost with the receipts. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't need a meeting or a message thread. It was a stamp in a drawer. It was a room not tearing itself over a rule. In the boiler room, he ate a peanut butter sandwich over his toolbox. Pipes ticked. The light hummed. He took a slow drink from a dented thermos and checked his phone. A text from his cousin asked about fishing next weekend. Another from the tire place. Still need those two for the rear? He typed, next month. He folded the last week's tire estimate into quarters and slid it into the envelope that had nothing left. He tucked the envelope into his back pocket anyway, because habits are anchors. He rubbed his thumb along a nick on his knuckle, old injury catching on new skin. He thought about the boy with the coins and how he'd counted wrong at first and then corrected himself without making a sound. He pictured his own kid at that age. Eyes soft when he thought no one saw. He stood when his radio called him for the leak upstairs. He put the thermos away. He went back to work. The next day, a coffee can with masking tape sat by the register. It said for lunches in blue marker. An art teacher slipped in a 5 and didn't look at anyone when she did. Cups of fruit went a little faster. No speech. No announcement. Just a can where a can hadn't been catching what rolled toward it. A 7th grader lifted his tray and covered his friend's hand without a word. They walked that way from the register to their table like they were carrying something fragile. They were. At the table, he moved his arm and they started talking about a game from last night. Nothing big. The day kept going. The stamp pad stayed in the drawer and collected dust like any other forgotten thing. A crumb of cracker fell in the U of the branded plastic lid. At first, the woman wiped the dust off it when she opened for change out of reflex. Then she stopped. The lid stayed dull. A line in the newsletter said all children would be fed, no mention of stamps. Parents saw it between book fair dates and a reminder about picture retakes. In the front office, someone started keeping granola bars in a basket where the hand sanitizer used to be. The secretary added apples to her own grocery list and brought them in a cloth bag. He kept mopping. He oiled the squeaky wheel on his cart that had sung to him for months because he'd always meant to and now he did. He put a fresh tennis ball on the leg of a chair that kept scraping. He tightened 2 screws on a wobbling table. He threw away a sign about consequences that had fallen and cracked. He didn't think about the envelope. He made a list in his head of things he could sell that he didn't use. A fishing pole, a saw. He didn't rush to list them. He held the thought and kept working. At dismissal, the boy in the too thin hoodie walked past with a friend. He had pizza sauce at the corner of his mouth. His hand was clean. He pulled his sleeve down out of habit and then left it where it was. He tugged his backpack strap. He didn't look at anybody. His steps were a little faster. The woman at the register closed out. She counted her drawer twice. She slid the sticky note back under the screen where it wouldn't blow away when the door opened. She stacked trays. She wiped the counter with the rag that always smelled like the last thing it touched. She flicked off the light to the warmer. She carried the can to the office without looking into it. Nobody called anyone a hero. Nobody posted a photo with hashtags. The people in the room did their jobs. A rule bent because a person put their own weight on it and paid. It was small, and it was not. It felt like weather turning, not a storm. It felt like someone opened a window. He moved past the door with his cart and nodded toward the register on his way to the back. The woman nodded back and tucked a stray curl under her hairnet. They didn't say anything about Friday, or the envelope, or tires. They didn't say anything about stamps. They let it be a quiet thing, because quiet things sometimes hold better. The next week, the coffee can still sat there. There were coins now, and a couple of bills stuck together from juice. The art teacher had taped the masking tape back down at one corner. A math teacher left a roll of dimes. The secretary replaced granola bars with apples when the bars ran out. A parent dropped off a bag of oranges with no note. A kid who had never brought lunch money brought an extra apple and put it next to the can, like that counted too. It did. In a metal drawer, a red stamp lay dry under a strip of sunlight. Dust rode the beam and went nowhere. On the line, a clean hand pushed a tray forward, palm clear, wrist free. The hum of the fridge was the loudest thing in the room.